Hey guys, welcome to Traditional Bow Hunting Wilderness Podcast. This is Jason Samkovic, and today we're going to be talking about how big of tires your truck can handle. This is an important one. There's a lot of advantages, disadvantages, but there's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that many of you guys don't know about that can heavily impact this decision for you and make you regret it later on. So we're going to break it all down for you, and it doesn't matter what vehicle you have. We're going to cover a bunch. Mid-size. We're going to talk about the Colorado, the Ranger, the Tacoma, the Gladiator, full-size, F-150s, Ram 1500s, Silverado 1500s. We're going to break it all down for you. Some of the pros, the cons, and I'm going to be showing you a ton of pictures as we go through this. To start it out though, so why do people want bigger tires on there? It looks cool. It gives you better ground clearance. Gives you a little more off-road capability. There's a lot of advantages to having bigger tires on your truck. Okay, whatever they are, whatever it is that you're looking to do with that. That's for a whole nother video. It's a whole nother thing, and every one of you have different things that your wants from these tires are. So that's kind of irrelevant. We're not going to dive too deep into it. One thing that I do see people commonly make a mistake of is they assume that with bigger tires they're getting more ground clearance, and you are, but they mistake those numbers. I want to point out there to you that a 1 inch difference tire size does not give you 1 more inch clearance. A 2-inch tire increase in diameter does not give you 2 inches more clearance, because you have the axle. Okay, so if you, real quick, again, this is just something that I see happen a lot, but if you got an axle here in the middle and then this is your wheel, okay, and you have a 30-inch wheel here, okay, from here to here, and you take this up to a 32-inch wheel to here, and you go to 32, actually only half of that is below this axle, so you really only gain 1 inch of ground clearance, not even though you got 2 inches overall. Only 1 inch of that is below the axle that holds your vehicle up. So a 2-inch tire size increase only yields 1 inch bigger tire. A 1 inch taller tire will only yield a ½ inch bigger ground clearance. So hopefully that makes sense for you, because I do see that one mistaken quite a bit on there. I see a lot of people, you know, on forums and on YouTube, and people that I talk to on the trails and stuff too. Oh yeah, I love these. You know, 2-inch bigger tire gives me a 2-inch lift there, plus my 2 inches of lift on the vehicle gives me 4 extra inches. It does not. Gives you 3 extra inches. 2 inches in a lift, 1 inch in a 2-inch. You get 1 inch of lift out of a 2-inch tire. So I wanted to point that out there for you. But now let's dive into this. Okay, the things that are going to matter the most to you. And like I said, a lot of this stuff you guys aren't aware of, and you're not going to know about. And it's important that you do. I see so many vehicles out there that are doing it way wrong, and they've totally just destroyed their vehicle. Performance-wise, as well as literally, if they were to actually take them off-road, they would destroy them mechanically as well too. So let's dive into this and look at it. Biggest tires your truck can handle, yours, whatever one of these you have. We will tone that or break that down. Some things to consider for you before we get into those. Some criteria. Okay. Lifter level may very well be required. Usually a level kit will do what you need. Sometimes a lift is needed too, but for the most part, this combinations I'm doing, they're going to be, you may need to do a level and may not need to do a lift. Okay, that's your own research. That's your stuff to figure out. I don't care. I'm not worried about what the vehicle this isn't about what can be done not lifted in stock form, what you can do with a 2-inch lift or a 1-inch level or a 3-inch lift. It's not that. This is what your truck, your vehicle can handle. Keyword here being handle. Not what will fit, okay? Not what will fit in your wheel wells, not how big you can go with a 6-inch lift and do with it. What your truck can actually handle. Keyword, handle, okay? So you may need a lift or at least a level to fit some of the bigger tires and things like that, but you're going to have to, first thing, clearance issues. This is what everybody knows about. This is what they dive in for. They're going to check. You want to make sure that you have clearance in your wheel wells between the front fender, the rear of the fender. The back wheels are usually pretty good. It's the front wheels because they turn. You want to make sure though that you have clearance in the front fender, the rear fender, and all of the suspension control arms, frame if it's turned in, all of those components, body mounts, things like that. You will need to check your clearance issues. Every one of these tire setups that I'm going to tell you, they will work with a level kit or a small lift kit on these vehicles. You will have to be smart with your offsets on your wheels, okay, how far out they stick. An offset, again, I may throw a picture in for this, but it's quick and easy to do on a diagram. But if this is your truck, okay, here's your vehicle from a back view. Okay, this is just a box, okay, but so your wheels are here, sticking out like this. If you go to a negative offset, it will push those wheels out. So if you buy rims, negative offset, those rims may now be here, like this, and out here, like this, okay, that's negative. Those are the ones you see go down the road, they look like a roller skate. Nothing wrong with that. That's what you're into. But that's where the back of the truck is here like this, and then, you know, here's the bed of the truck, you got your windshield, and then out there, and the wheels are like this on the truck. And it looks like literally like you could step on it and it could be a roller skate, okay? That's a negative offset, pushes those wheels out. A positive offset will push those wheels inbound on the inside of the truck. My pen's not working here, there it is, like that. So negative is out, positive is into the body. Okay, so when you're setting up that offset for your wheels, you will need to know what offset you want, and then you will have to refigure all your clearance issues based on that offset. What might work for stock, say you have a 0 degree offset, a 0 degree back spacing, and your wheels are barely sticking out. You know, you got your fender here, and your wheel sticks out yay far out of that fender is a 0 offset. Might be good, and you have good clearances. But if you then go to a wheel that's going to stick out here at 25 mil negative offset and be that far outside of your vehicle, this being the side view of your vehicle, you may very well run back into clearance issues. So you will have to figure that out for whatever you're doing, but know that there's combinations of these tire sizes we're going to talk about that will work with every one of these. I know every one of these vehicles. I understand them. I know what they're capable of. I know what they're running for axle. I know everything about them. So these, I know that these clearance issues are acceptable in these sizes, but you, again, you go messing with offsets, you'll have to figure that one out. Weight is another one to be in consideration of, because we're going to talk, the reason I'm mentioning these now is they're going to be important when we talk about these. Weight factor. Okay, tires are heavy. Not only are they heavy, they are on the end of your axles and they are rotating mass that is on there. Okay, they're going to rob your MPGs from you. They may very well damage your axles. They're going to cause all kinds of issues there, and then they're heavy. They're big, heavy, and they're actually on the end of they're rolling mass on the end of your axles. So weight is a big deal. How much weight? I'll throw some charts in here when we start talking about this stuff, or maybe right here. You might see some charts. But I would figure, basically, if you're going up a couple of, most trucks today come with a P-rated tire, passenger-rated tire, or an SL-rated tire. That means basically 4-ply tires, okay? They're 4 plies thick. Most of your trucks are going to want to go to a C or a D or an E-rated. I prefer the E-rated. That's a 10-ply tire. When you go to that size, that much more ply, you gain a tremendous amount of puncture resistance. You can air them down better. You get a lot more capability out of them, but they're heavier. For example, let's just say that you were going to go up, and I'm showing you on a chart on here so you can see some of this stuff that I'm showing you. I'll highlight a couple of differences, and you can actually, I'll pause it here for a minute so that you can actually see this and understand it. But figure on if you are going to go up 2 sizes of, go up 1 inch size, 1 or 2 inches in tire size. Okay, let's say you're going from a 32 to or a 31 to 33. So figure somewhere in that 2. Let's just ballpark it. Say you're going 20 pounds per tire to go from a passenger to 1 size or 2 sizes bigger and a E-rated. Okay, 20 pounds per wheel. Per axle, 20 extra pounds, 80 pounds added to your vehicle, and it all being on the rotating axles of that. That's a lot. So the weight is a big factor. You got to take that into consideration. This will play into a lot of issues you may have later on. Okay, so that's something now you can go with passenger rated ones too, but again, you got to weigh those options for yourself. Power loss and re-gear. These are 2 huge ones. This is where I told you you're going to lose that performance. Vehicles are tested with the size tires they are, okay? So as they're coming from the factory, they're coming from the factory with like a 31, okay? 31-inch tires, 33 on a Gladiator, Rubicon, 33s, 32s, whatever they are. They're, you know, the vehicle itself is actually designed to run those tires. The transmission is geared for it. Everything is set up for it. The axles are tested and rated to handle that. They are designed for that setup. When you go jumping up and adding 60 pounds or 20 pounds of weight to a wheel, and then you increase that diameter and you make that wheel 2 inches bigger, and you go from a 31 here to a 33 here, this extra size that you're seeing in there, plus that weight, plus that extra rolling resistance, plus the diameter, slowing how many times around that axle goes, all contribute tremendously to power loss. How much power loss? Well, it depends on the vehicle, but oftentimes, for example, let's say that if you were to put 33s on a Toyota Tacoma, might as well forget 6th gear, you'll never see it. If you were to put, you know, same with on a Ranger, you're putting it in, you're not going to see, you're going to lose the top gear. I remember we've had a few lifted Jeeps, okay? When we put 35s on our Jeep, lifted it 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and put the 35s on it, that manual, I lost 6th gear and barely ever even used 5th gear. It was gone, forget it. It's just not even there anymore. And it's a 6-speed transmission. Where when I had to stock 32s, we'd run 6th gear all the time on the highway, flying down, things are perfect. Put 35s on there, forget 6th gear, and you'll barely ever even use 5th. So you lose that tremendous amount of power, okay? And that was on a manual for that Jeep. But so power loss is huge. It's a big deal. It's also where regearing comes in. Regearing is how you get that power back. Regearing is expensive, okay? It's not easy to do. You're usually looking at about $1,000 an axle, and it depends on vehicles. But regearing it in order to get that power back. So those are things that you can do, but things you got to think about. Axles. Axles are only designed to handle X amount of weight. Okay, X amount of weight and X amount of energy being transferred to them. And when you start going bigger tires with more traction, more weight, and then more jarring as they break free here and there and that kind of stuff, you transmit that back. You start breaking axles or CVs on a lot of them. Okay, if you're on a Rubicon or a Gladiator Rubicon with a solid front axle, Power Wagon, something like that, that's different. They're a little stronger, but they still have issues. We'll cover that. But CV axles, like on a Colorado Ranger, on a Tacoma, on an F-150, Ram 1500, Silverado, any 1500 trucks, they are CV axles, CVs, okay? These, and I probably have a picture running right here for you, these will snap on a regular basis when you start getting outside of what I say they can handle. When you start going bigger than that, you will start snapping these more often off-road. It's just part of the game. It's something you got to consider or take into consideration. These are not designed to handle the extra weight, the extra traction, the extra everything that's there. And then when you start getting them off-road and you're churning them through the mud and you're spinning them like crazy, and then they hit a root under there and that stops that thing from spinning, snap, ping. There it is. CV, gone. Just like that. Start sliding it up a rock wall and it gets to the top and it catches and bites and locks in. Sink, pink. Done. CV, gone. Okay? So there are things you got to consider or take into consideration. These cannot handle anything above X amount of load. And that's what they're designed for. Your MPGs, they will be a loss as well too. You are going to drop. When you go to this big a tire, add that much weight on it, that much rolling resistance, that much more for the engine and the transmission to turn over, your MPGs are going to go down the tubes. Just all there is to it. Expect nothing less. Somewhere between, probably, I would say you're looking, you're going to at least be a minimum of 1, but you could even be 5 miles per gallon loss on some of these vehicles and some sizes. Just going to have to deal with it. Okay, it is what it is. So and it does vary. And there's research out there. This video, I can't cover every little nitty-gritty thing. We are going to cover what the biggest tire your truck can handle and a little bit of explanation why. So there's how we kind of have it here for you. So now that we know that, what are we getting into? Well, let's first dive into, let's talk about that Colorado. Okay, with the Colorado or all mid-sized trucks, they are basically going to run either a 31 or a 32-inch tire from factory. That's basically where they're going to be. Anywhere from a 30.5 to a 32.5. None of these, with the exception of the Gladiator, we'll talk about different in a certain scenario. but everything else is going to basically be running 31 or 32 inch tires on them. Okay, if you were to take those and jump them up to a 32, go up one size bigger, 1 inch bigger, you're going to be just fine. You're not going to have any issues. Everything's going to work like gold. It's going to be fantastic. You can go, all three of these, okay, can go up to a 33. Okay, you can do a 33 inch tire on those 33 1150s or 33 1050s. Don't get carried away, but a 33 inch tire on these will work fantastic. You will still suffer power loss. You may want to re-gear on some of them, but may not have to. A Ranger, you wouldn't have to. Tacoma, maybe you'd want to. I know a lot of guys that do and a lot of guys that don't. Colorado's got the power too, depending on the motor, so you'd probably be all right. But 33s are about it. I know people that are stuffing 35s on Tacomas and they're snapping CV axles all the time, and you have to spend the money to re-gear to overpower the weight loss because of all these things, and you run into massive clearance issues. Now you got to go high clearance bumpers, front, rear, all kinds of stuff, and it's a whole lot of work to get that, to gain that little bit extra you're going to get. 33s, safe. 33s are pretty good. Now 33s are still tough on the vehicle because of all this stuff on all three of these levels, but they're doable. On a Ranger, you might even have to cut the crash bars off. You got to look into this. But your truck, any one of these three, can handle a 33 inch tire without having major problems. Without you going, God, I made a huge mistake. This was the dumbest thing I did, and feeling bad about it. These are not taking it past the point of no return. They're not putting tremendous amounts of stress where you're going to hurt anything seriously. Again, you get real hardcore off-road, you possibly could snap some CV axles, but for the most part, you're going to be pretty safe in one of these with up to a 33 inch tire. The Gladiator. The Gladiator comes in a few different trim levels. Okay, if you are not running a Rubicon, okay, a Rubicon. If you're not in a Rubicon, it's going to piss a lot of people off. Same thing. 33s in a non-Rubicon. They come with, again, 31, 32s, depending on the trim level, Willys, all that kind of stuff. But if you're in a standard, any Gladiator other than a Rubicon, you have Dana 30 axles in them. They're good axles, okay? It's a 30 series in there. Used to be where the JKs, before the JLs, the JKs came with Dana 40s in the rear, Dana 30s in the front, so you at least had that 40 in the rear. But point being, with what you have now out there for the new ones, the Gladiator and stuff like that, those, you start getting higher than a 33, you're going to start running into the power loss. Not so bad, but you still will, because of the gearing, the final gear ratio. If you, I'm not for simplicity purposes, if it is a Gladiator other than a Rubicon or a Mojave, 33s I think are where you're going to feel very happy and comfortable. Now you will see a tremendous amount of Jeep Sports, Gladiator Sports, and lower models that are going to running around out there with 37s on them all day long, and that's all fine and dandy. Go drive one. There's a lot of those for sale, used lots everywhere. You can see them all over the place of Gladiators and Wrangler, Jeep Wrangler Unlimited 4-doors that are running 37 inch tires. Okay, go drive one. Go rent one and go drive one. And when you get out of it, go drive one that doesn't have 35s or 37s on it, and then you make your own decision. I'll leave it at that. Okay, there are a lot of them running around. In my opinion, if it is not a Rubicon model, it's not geared low enough and doesn't have the axle capability to handle bigger than 33s comfortably. And you will lose a lot of power, need to re-gear, and put a lot of stress on your axles. My opinion. Again, that's for off-road. If you're just driving it down the road, you can handle the power loss and want that thing wimpy, you do whatever you want to do. Again, I'm not knocking what somebody's set up to do. But we are talking about off-roading these things, okay? We hunt, we overland, we're adventure seekers, we like to go to some of the stuff, we do these things, we want that off-road capability. Now, when you talk about a Rubicon, you're into a much higher gear ratio, okay? So you have the gearing, so instead of, you almost don't have to re-gear, because they re-gear the Rubicon already for you, to lower gearing, to give you that capability. It comes stock with 33s. 35s on a Gladiator Rubicon model because Rubicon has Dana 40s in the front and in the rear, and it's got that power and capability. You got front and rear lockers. There's a lot to it. It's one heck of a vehicle. When you get into that one, 35s on a R model, Rubicon, okay? On a Ruby, 35. You see a lot of guys running 37s on them too. It can do it. 37s are probably even fine. Me personally, because of the lack of power that these vehicles produce, unless you're getting a 392 or something like that, the power loss still being a problem, I would say 35s myself. But you could fit 37s with a very small level kit or lift kit on there and be fine for 37s. But in my opinion, on a Gladiator non-Rubicon, 33s and 35s on a Rubicon is where you're going to max out at on there. When we get into full-size vehicles, all of these are very similar in the fact that they are designed very much the same. You know, CV axles on the front, solid axles on the rear. All of them are very similar. They all got a couple little quirks and differences. Ground clearances are not too far off from each other. Capabilities are not too much off from each other. But all three of these basically, again, into a 35 as a max. You start pushing these any higher than 35, you will start snapping CV axles. You will need to re-gear to power them. And your power loss in there, this will carry over to that. It's going to be a nightmare. Again, my opinion. And you will start to run into clearance issues quickly when you start getting above 35s. But 35s seem to be that magic number on a full-size truck where you're going, you know, you're going to get away with it. You're not going to hurt anything. Your MPG loss is not ridiculous. The truck looks good, and your capabilities are still there. You may need to do a level. You may have to do some of that stuff for it, but this is a solid, safe zone. You start putting 37s on here, snapping stuff, problems, and you are going to run into all kinds of issues. It's not that the truck can't handle, the truck itself can't handle it, it's that the axles cannot, the CVs cannot, your transmission gearing cannot. These are all problems. So just because you can stuff them in or somebody did on YouTube and it looks good, doesn't mean that your truck can handle it for what you want your truck to do. Now, the interesting part, what you're noticing here is out of these, is basically in a mid-size, you're basically going to be able to go up 1 to 2 inches in tire size. And on a full size, you're basically going to be able to go up 1 to 2 inches over stock size. It's not that ridiculous. Okay, you're not gaining a whole lot, like I said. I mean, you know, you're on 33s, you know, you're probably on there, you're probably more 2 to 3 almost based on some of the full-size trucks out there. So 2 to 3. But now each of these will yield you, again, half of what you see here is your ground clearance height. So the tires are there for a lot of advantages. Ground clearance is actually one of the smallest advantages. It is there for it though, it does give you that. So the bigger tire that you can fit on there is good, but actually more important is the tread that's on that tire, and the type of traction you're going to get from that tire matters way more. But when you start increasing at tire size, you got a lot of things that you need to contend with. Looks are one thing. And looks drive 99% of all the vehicles you see out there. I can't tell, I mean, if for every 10 Wranglers you see go down the road that are lifted and got sliders and they are decked out and they got the fender flares gone and they got a winch on the front and custom bumpers on the front, custom bumpers on the rear, for every 10 you see, 1 goes off-road. 1. Just 1 is all that actually ever goes off-road. Okay, so understand the power of looks and appearance. Makes perfect sense. But if you're using your vehicle off-road and you're out there running that stuff and doing things, these are things that you need to take. Once you stop mall crawling and getting off of the highway, this stuff will matter for your decisions with what you do with the tires on there. So it was a short video, but it tells you, gives you a good starting point on what these can really take and what you can do without hating your rig when you're all done. That's what you don't want to do. It may look cool on YouTube, but if you go putting 37s on these, you go putting 40s on a, and I'll show you some examples. When you put 40s on a Gladiator, you know, 40-inch tires on there, you're going to need to re-gear. You're going to have all kinds. it's a whole different ball game. You almost got to go to a Dana 60 axle. You almost got to replace the axles to be able to run 40s or 42s on a Gladiator and not have that thing start breaking it, ripping itself apart. Okay, there's issues. You go putting 35s on these, you're going to run into some problems. You're going to start busting a lot of CV axles. You're going to have to re-gear, all these issues. So let these be good numbers for you. Mid-size, 33s, you know, in a nutshell. Okay, basically that's what it comes down to. 33 max, and on a full size, 35 max is what you're kind of after on their Gladiator. For the Gladiator, 33, or you can go 35 or even 37 if you want on a Rubicon, because they can handle it. But in a nutshell, that kind of sums it up. But it was important for you to understand why. Thanks for watching. Be back with more videos for you soon.